Welcome back to the deep dive. Today we are going to ruin your childhood.
That is a pretty dramatic way to start, isn't it?
I don't think it is. Look, if you grew up in any of the Abrahamic traditions, Jewish, Christian, Muslim, or even if you just watched epic movies, you have this image of King Solomon burned into your brain.
It's part of our sort of cultural wallpaper.
Totally. It's woven into our DNA. And what's the image? It's like a mix of a billionaire, a wizard, and a saint.
The magic ring, the demons building the temple, the flying carpet.
Exactly. The ability to talk to birds, to ants, and of course the horses.
The famous Safinat al-Jiyad, the standing steeds.
Right. And the story is so vivid. I remember hearing it, and it's always the same. Solomon has these magnificent, powerful war horses, thousands of them.
The pride of his kingdom.
And he's reviewing them one afternoon. He's just so taken, so completely mesmerized by their beauty and their power that he loses track of time.
And he misses his prayer, specifically the afternoon prayer.
Which is, a big deal. So what does he do? In this fit of holy guilt, of repentance, he does something shocking.
He slaughters them.
He slaughters them. He takes his sword, or he orders his men, and they slash their legs and their necks. And it's presented as this ultimate sacrifice, right?
Yeah.
Giving up this beautiful worldly possession for God.
It's a very powerful, very dramatic image. It shows a man who's maybe a bit impulsive, maybe even cruel to animals by our standards, but his piety is, unquestionable.
But what if that entire narrative is just wrong?
What if we've been telling ourselves a fairy tale?
What if there were no horses?
And no slaughter?
And what if the magic that everyone associates with Solomon wasn't about controlling demons with a ring, but about something far more scientific and, honestly, far more relevant to our world today?
Now that is a deep dive.
It is. But before we get into it, we have to be extremely clear about our sourcing today. Because this isn't just us coming up with a wild theory.
Not at all. This is critical. Everything we are going to discuss, every single point, is derived entirely from the research of one specific scholar.
We are looking at the work of Dr. Khaled Waleed, and you can find all of this on his YouTube channel, which is called Almighty Covenant.
Or Mithaq al-Khaliq in Arabic. And his whole project is based on a methodology he calls bayan.
Bayan. What does that mean exactly?
It means clarification or a statement. But his approach is, it's radical. He argues that what we think of as religious history or heritage, the Arabic word is turath, is actually a thick layer of fog that's covering the original text.
Fog, I like that. So it's not helping us see, it's obscuring things.
Precisely. He says that over the centuries, all this folklore, and specifically what he calls Israeliyat.
Stories from Jewish and Christian traditions.
Right. Those stories seeped into the interpretation of the Quran. They were used to fill in the gaps. And over 1,000 years, they became accepted as fact.
They became the lens. So you can't read the original text without looking through this filter of folklore.
And Dr. Waleed's mission on the Almighty Covenant channel is to smash that lens. He says, let's ignore what some scholars said in the 12th century. Let's ignore the folklore. Let's just look at the words.
Go back to the source code.
Go back to the dictionary, the linguistic roots. And when you do that with the story of Solomon, the picture changes completely. It stops being a fairy tale about a man and his ponies.
And it becomes what?
It becomes a political thriller about a CEO discovering that his entire administration is corrupt and on the verge of collapse.
Okay, I am so in for that. So let's start at the beginning of this kingdom. If it wasn't about, mountains of gold and magical treasures, what was it? Because the popular image is that Solomon was the richest man who ever lived.
And he was. But Dr. Waleed forces us to ask, what does rich actually mean? He points directly to the Quran, to Surah An-Naml, verse 36. This is the scene with the Queen of Sheba.
Right. She sends an envoy with, the most extravagant gifts imaginable to test him. Gold, jewels, you name it.
And the traditional telling implies he's this opulent king surrounded by wealth. But what does the verse actually say? When Solomon sees the gold, what are his words?
He says, do provide me with wealth, but what Allah has given me is better than what he has given you.
It's a rejection. It's almost an insult. You think this impresses me? He's dismissing material wealth. Dr. Waleed argues that we've been tricked by history into looking for physical things. Buried treasure, golden palaces.
We're looking for Indiana Jones stuff.
Exactly. But the kingdom wasn't about that. Solomon explicitly rejects the gift of gold. So the treasure, the real wealth, had to be something else.
So if not gold, then what? What's better than gold?
Knowledge. Ilm. The source material from the Almighty Covenant channel defines Solomon's kingdom as a mulk ilmi, A scientific kingdom.
The scientific kingdom. That sounds incredibly modern, like he's running a tech campus in ancient Jerusalem.
In a way, he was. The Quran is very clear. It says David and Solomon were given ilm knowledge. And what did they say? Praise be to Allah who has favored us. They didn't say, praise be to Allah who gave us a giant bank account.
So the inheritance from his father wasn't a treasury.
It was a system of ruling wisdom. The mission wasn't to hoard precious metals. It was to administrate and spread the deen, the system of God, based on superior knowledge. It was an empire built on information, not on currency.
An information empire, okay, that reframes everything.
Yeah.
But it leads us right to the main event, the horses. Because if this is a kingdom of the mind, what on earth is going on with the story of the standing steeds?
This is the absolute core of Dr. Waleed's linguistic deep dive. This is where we have to, slow down and really get into the weeds of the language.
Okay, let's do it. The phrase from the Quran is safanat al-jiyad. I've looked this up. Every major translation says some version of standing steeds, well-bred horses, coursers. Seems pretty settled. How can it mean anything else?
It seems settled because everyone is looking through that same old lens of folklore. Dr. Waleed takes a hammer to it. He starts with the first word, safinat.
Safanat.
The root is SFN. Now, the traditional explanation is that this describes a very specific posture of a horse standing on 3 legs with the tip of the 4th hoof just touching the ground.
That seems hyper-specific. Why would there be a word for that?
It is, but Dr. Waleed uses a linguistic principle here, the idea of root permutation. It's the concept that in Arabic, if you sometimes flip the letters of a 3-letter root, you can find a related or even an opposite meaning. It's like a mirror.
So SFN might be related to what? NFS?
Or FNS. He contrasts the root SFN with the root FNS.
Okay, FN, what does that mean?
Fanas is a fascinating verb. It means to stare at something with total, absolute, locked-in focus. Imagine a scientist looking through a microscope or a sniper looking through a scope. You are 100% present.
Laser focus. Every detail is sharp. You're completely engaged.
That's fanas. So if FNS is total focus, what's the mirror image? What is SFN?
Ooh.
Yeah.
It would be the exact opposite. Total lack of focus.
Exactly. It's the 1,000-yard stare. It's when your eyes are open but you're not seeing anything. You're daydreaming. You're zoned out. You've checked out.
I know that feeling. That's me in a long meeting.
We all know that feeling. So according to Dr. Waleed, safinat isn't a physical posture of an animal. It's a psychological state. It's a state of mind wandering, of being spiritually disconnected. It's the separation of your consciousness from the zikr, from the remembrance of God, from reality itself.
Wait, so when the verse says Solomon was presented with safanat, it doesn't mean they brought him standing horses. It means he was in a state of mental distraction.
He was in a brain fog. He was checked out. His mind was wandering.
Okay, that is a huge shift. Mind-blowing, actually. But what about the second word? Jiyad. That's the part that means horses, right? Jawad is a horse.
It can be, yes. But again, we have to go to the root. The root of jihad is jad, J-A-D.
Jad, what does that mean?
Jad means the core. It means seriousness, grandeur, majesty. Think about a common phrase in the Quran, Ta'ala Jadu Rabbika. It means exalted is the jad of your Lord, the grandeur, the majesty, the serious, heavy, important center of things.
Okay, the core. That's a powerful word.
It's also related to the word jayed, which means neck. And what does the neck do? It directs the head. It's the point of control. So when Dr. Waleed puts these two redefined words together, safinat al-jiyad, he's not seeing zoned out horses.
He's seeing distraction regarding the core.
You're right there. The jihad are the centers of control, the core of his administration, his high-ranking officials, his cabinet, his generals, the people running the mulk ilmi, the scientific kingdom.
So jihad are the VIPs, the heavyweights.
Yes.
Serious ones.
Yes. The grandeur of his kingdom. And the verse is describing Solomon's state of mind in relation to them. He was looking at his powerful administration, his flawless system, and he got lost in admiration of it.
So the verse says he loved the love of the good. What was the good?
The good was his own creation, his powerful state, his economic machine, his military strength. He fell in love with the system he built. And in that love, that admiration, he entered a state of safon. He drifted away from the remembrance of his Lord.
He got high on his own supply.
That's a perfect way to put it. He was so impressed with the mechanics of his kingdom that he lost sight of the purpose behind the kingdom.
That is deeply, deeply relatable. I mean, it's not some ancient problem. Think about anyone who builds something, a business, a family, a project. You can get so obsessed with managing the details, the jihad of it all, that you forget your why.
You forget the mission, and that is what the verse means when it says, until it was hidden by the veil, the hijab. The truth, the connection to God, was veiled by the complexity and success of his own material administration.
So Solomon's great sin wasn't getting distracted by pretty animals. It was a crisis of leadership. It was becoming so enamored with his own power structure that he lost his spiritual compass.
Precisely. And this reinterpretation is absolutely crucial because it completely changes what happens next, the slaughter. If there are no horses to kill, what is he doing?
The traditional translations say he began to stroke, or wipe, or slash their legs and necks.
And Dr. Waleed just poses the question, does this make sense? Does a prophet of God, a man of immense wisdom, get so lost looking at animals that he forgets to pray? And then, in a fit of rage, does a merciful figure brutally maim and kill innocent creatures?
It sounds more like a temper tantrum than an act of piety. It sounds unstable.
Exactly. So Dr. Waleed says we have to look at the words for the action and the targets again. The verb is mash, to wipe, to rub, to pass over, to cleanse.
Okay, to wipe, and he's wiping. Souk and enek. Legs and necks.
Traditionally, yes. But let's look at souk. If you go to any city in the Middle East today and you want to go shopping, where do you go?
You go to the souk, the marketplace.
Of course. The word souk fundamentally refers to the base, the place of commerce, the economic engine, the legs that the kingdom stands on. It's the markets.
So he's not wiping horse legs. He's wiping the markets.
And anak, the plural of neck. But we use this metaphorically in English all the time. Who are the heads of state? Who sticks their neck out to make a decision? It refers to the leaders, the decision makers, the top brass.
The ones he called the jihad, the core.
Exactly. The markets and the leaders, the economy and the administration, the bottom and the top of the entire power structure.
So when Solomon wakes up from his safanat, his distraction, he doesn't go on a killing spree.
He initiates a purge.
An administrative purge. He wipes the system clean.
From the very bottom, the souk, to the very top, the anak. He realized in that moment of clarity that while he was busy admiring his perfect machine, it had become corrupted. It had been infiltrated.
This connects to that other mysterious verse, doesn't it? The one about a body on his throne.
It absolutely does. The Quran says, we tested Solomon and placed upon his throne a jasad, a body.
The interpretations of that are wild. A demon who stole his ring and his identity, a shapeshifter, a literal corpse.
Dr. Waleed, through the Almighty Covenant research, argues that the jasad is a soulless body. It's a metaphor for the corrupted administrative apparatus itself. A system that had his authority, sat on his throne, but had none of his spirit or his ethics. A zombie government.
The body was on the chair, but nobody was home.
And seeing that dead body running his kingdom was his wake-up call. That was the moment he turned back to God in Inaba, in full repentance, and realized he needed to act. He needed to clean house.
So he fires everyone. He restructures the economy. He reasserts control. He performs a hostile takeover of his own kingdom to save it from itself.
Now that sounds like a king of wisdom, not a man throwing a fit over some animals. He saw the rot, and he cut it out decisively.
This turns the entire story from a strange fable into a masterclass in governance and leadership.
It does. And it forces us to re-examine the other big part of his legend, the magic. The demons, the shayateen, the jinn, because they were part of that infiltration.
Right. If the body on the chair was a corrupt system, the devils were the corrupting agents. But what exactly is the magic they were using?
To understand that, Dr. Waleed says we have to go back in time, way, way back, before Solomon, to the ancient land of Babylon.
And the story of Harut and Marut.
Yes. The two angels mentioned in the Quran. Now, traditional stories paint them as fallen angels who taught forbidden arts. But again, Dr. Waleed reads it differently. He identifies them as messengers of the sky who came to teach.
To teach what?
And, more importantly, when. This is one of the most shocking claims in the research. Dr. Waleed argues that this Babylon of Harut and Marut predates the story of Adam.
Hold on. Stop. Pre-Adam, you mean before humans, as we understand them.
Before this current cycle of humanity. He posits that civilizations have risen and fallen on this planet before us, and in that pre-human or very early human era, Harut and Marut came down and taught the words of God.
Okay, but words of God doesn't mean religion here, does it?
No. In this context, it means science, the fundamental laws of the universe. Physics, biology, psychology, linguistics, the source code of reality. They were teaching how the world works.
So they were basically teaching a graduate-level science curriculum to some ancient civilization.
You could say that. But then the devils, the shayateen, which can mean rebellious humans or other entities, they took this pure science and they corrupted it. They twisted it.
Wow.
This is Dr. Waleed's core definition of sir, or magic. It has nothing to do with spells and potions. Sir is the act of turning or deviating words and knowledge from their proper place. It is weaponized information.
It's propaganda. It's disinformation. It's psychological warfare.
Exactly. The Quran says they learned from this corrupted knowledge that which separates a man from his wife. Think about that. What's the most powerful form of magic you can imagine? A fireball? Or a psychological technique so potent it can destroy the core unit of society, the family?
The second one is infinitely more terrifying. It's invisible. You can't fight it if you can't see it.
It's social engineering. And Dr. Waleed argues that this ancient dark science didn't just disappear. The devils, during Solomon's time, thousands of years later, were digging it up. They were reciting and using these ancient corruptions from the time of Harut and Marut.
So that was their toolkit. They were using this weaponized psychology to infiltrate Solomon's government, to create that soulless body on the chair.
Yes, and they ran a smear campaign. They tried to claim that Solomon's own power, his mulk ilmi, came from the same dark source.
He's not a prophet. He's just one of us. He's a sorcerer using the old tricks.
It was an attempt to delegitimize him, and the Quran comes to his defense explicitly. Solomon did not disbelieve, but the devils disbelieved, teaching people magic. It draws a clear line. His knowledge was divine science, theirs was corrupted science.
This all fits together, but it brings up that timeline issue again. The notes mentioned a very specific date that Dr. Waleed proposes for Solomon's kingdom.
Yes, and this is another point that completely upends the conventional historical view. Traditionally, Solomon is placed somewhere around 900–1000 BC, the height of the Iron Age.
Right. That's what you see in every textbook.
Dr. Waleed suggests a radical alternative. He posits that Solomon's kingdom may have been much, much more recent, around 150 BC.
150 BC. That's the era of the Maccabees. That's right on the doorstep of the Roman Empire. That's just before the time of Jesus.
It is a massive shift. It compresses the timeline of the prophets in that region significantly. He argues this timing makes more sense as it connects the influence of the children of Israel directly to the political and religious tensions of that specific pre-Christian era.
And it would also explain why archaeologists have a notoriously difficult time finding evidence of a massive, opulent empire in Palestine from 1000 BC.
The implication is that they are digging in the wrong century. It's a claim that challenges the entire archaeological consensus, but it's consistent with the methodology of rereading the text without the baggage of established tradition.
Okay, so we've rewritten history, linguistics, and the timeline. I feel like we should probably mess with geography too while we're at it.
As a matter of fact, the research goes there as well, specifically to the Dead Sea. And yes, Atlantis.
I knew it. I saw Atlantis in the notes. Usually when a source brings up Atlantis, my skepticism meter goes into the red zone.
It's understandable. But Dr. Waleed doesn't just throw the name out there. He ties it to a Quranic reading of the local geography. The Quran often mentions the Bahrain, the two seas.
Which people usually take to mean what? The Mediterranean and the Red Sea. Or the two rivers in Iraq.
Those are the common interpretations. Dr. Waleed argues the two seas being discussed in the context of that region are the Jordan River, which is fresh water, and the Dead Sea, which is salt water. Bahr al-Mil, the Sea of Salt.
Okay, but the Dead Sea is an inland lake.
It is now. But the research points to geological history, suggesting water levels were once dramatically higher and that the entire Jordan Rift Valley was a different ecosystem. He even mentions a specific volume of water, 114 cubic kilometers.
114. That's the same as the number of chapters, or surahs, in the Quran.
He draws a metaphorical link, suggesting a divine design or message encoded in the geography itself. But the main point is that this region was once a major waterway, and this is where he locates Atlantis.
But Atlantis is from Plato. It's a Greek story about a lost city in the Atlantic.
He argues that Atlantis is the Greek name for a story that has its roots in this region. He posits that the real Atlantis is a concept found in the Quran as Hatirat al-Bahr, the presence of the sea, or the civilization of the sea.
And who was this civilization of the sea?
He links it directly to the people of Lot, Sodom, and Gomorrah. He suggests that this wasn't just a couple of sinful towns, but a major, technologically advanced coastal civilization that was destroyed and submerged in a massive geological cataclysm in the Dead Sea region.
So the lost city of Atlantis is actually Sodom, and it's sitting at the bottom of the Dead Sea.
That is the theory presented. It grounds the story of divine punishment in a specific physical event and recontextualizes a famous myth within a Quranic framework.
Wow. Okay. It's a lot. It's a complete teardown and rebuild of this entire historical period, from the psychology of a king to the geography of a lost continent.
And there's a metaphysical layer to it, too, that underpins all of this, the concept of time.
Right. The notes mention God as Malik Yawm ad-Din, owner of the Day of Judgment, or religion.
Dr. Waleed emphasizes the word owner. He uses a simple analogy. The person who makes a cup is not inside the cup.
The creator is outside of the creation.
Exactly. God created time and place, so God is outside of them. But for us, the beings inside the cup, time is very real, it's biological, it's linear, and he even points to verses that mention 3 specific times for privacy.
Before the dawn prayer, at noon when you remove your clothes, and after the evening prayer. I always read that as, just basic etiquette. Knock before you enter.
He sees it as something much deeper. He suggests these are specific biological and energetic windows in the human cycle, that our bodies are attuned to these cosmic rhythms. He even implies they could be optimal times for rest, meditation, or even conception.
So it's not just politeness. It's a kind of divine biohacking, aligning your life with the natural frequencies of the universe.
Which is the perfect segue to what might be the most practical takeaway from all of this, the concept of fitra.
The natural disposition. The factory settings for a human being.
Yes, and this is where Dr. Waleed's analysis becomes a powerful critique of the modern world. He presents this idea of the manual versus the user.
Okay, explain that.
The Quran is the manual, the divine instruction book. The human being is the user, who comes pre-installed with fitra, this innate, natural understanding of how things ought to work.
A built-in compass.
Built-in compass. And then he asks a really provocative question. Why do so many Western, often secular societies succeed in terms of order, technology, and prosperity?
A question that many people in the Muslim world ask, often with a lot of frustration.
And his answer is that these societies, even without reading the manual, are inadvertently following the fitra. They are operating according to the natural laws of success: work ethic, justice and contracts, cleanliness, scientific inquiry, organization.
So they're using the machine correctly by instinct, even if they don't believe in the machine's creator.
They're changing the oil, checking the tires, and driving carefully. Meanwhile, he says, many Muslim societies are holding the manual. They're kissing the cover. They're memorizing the words. But they are completely ignoring the fitra.
So they're clutching the owner's manual while the engine is on fire because they never bothered to check the oil.
And it results in what he calls a zombie-like state, a state of expecting magical results from the manual without doing the actual work required by the natural laws of the universe.
That's a really powerful and, frankly, painful diagnosis.
The ultimate goal, he argues, is to achieve what Solomon had, a combination of the manual, divine revelation, and the fitra, acting on natural laws. That's when human potential is truly unlocked.
And it brings us back to the purge, doesn't it? Solomon didn't just pray for the corruption to go away.
Yeah.
He had the manual, but he also acted on the fitra. He did the hard work, he fired people, he restructured the markets, he took action.
He integrated knowledge and action. That's the key.
There's one last sort of theological bombshell from the notes that we need to touch on. It's a subtle linguistic point, but it has huge implications. The difference between a prophet, a nabi, and a messenger, a rasul.
Yes, this is very nuanced. Dr. Waleed argues that these are not just synonyms. A rasul, a messenger, is a role. It's someone tasked with delivering a specific message. A nabi, a prophet, is a higher station. It comes from the root naba, which means news or tidings. It implies a direct, elevated connection, receiving new information.
So a prophet is a messenger, but not every messenger is a prophet.
Correct. But here's the controversial part of his analysis. He claims that the Prophet Muhammad was a Rasul before he became a Nabi.
Wait, what message was he delivering before he received the Quran?
The message of Jesus. He argues for the absolute continuity of the one book, that the Torah, the Gospel, and the Quran are installments of the same continuous revelation. So Muhammad, in his early life, was a follower and a messenger of the pure teachings of Jesus and the monotheistic tradition of Abraham.
So he was part of that stream of tradition before he was elevated to the station of Nabi and given the final chapter of the book.
Exactly. It completely reframes the relationships between the Abrahamic faiths, suggesting not a rupture and replacement, but a continuous development. It emphasizes unity over division.
And that idea of division, that brings us all the way back to the definition of magic.
The weaponized knowledge, which separates. If the divine message is one continuous whole that unifies, then the work of the devils, the Sir, is to create those divisions, those sects, those hatreds between people who should be united.
Wow. Okay, let's take a breath here and try to synthesize all of this. This has been a huge journey.
It's a lot to process.
We started with a simple, almost childish image of a king killing his beautiful horses.
And we completely deconstructed it based on the linguistic research of Dr. Khaled Waleed from the Almighty Covenant channel.
We saw that Safinat wasn't about standing horses, but a psychological state of being checked out, of being distracted.
And the jihad weren't the horses, but the core of his administration, the grandees of his kingdom.
And the slaughter wasn't animal cruelty, but a massive administrative purge wiping the markets, souk, and the leadership, enak, to root out a soulless corruption that had taken over his throne.
We redefined magic as weaponized information originating in a pre-Adamic Babylon, sank Atlantis in the Dead Sea, and redated Solomon's entire kingdom to 150 BC.
And we ended up with this powerful critique of ourselves, of our own societies, through the lens of the manual versus the fitra.
It really is a complete re-examination of everything we thought we knew about this story.
So the final question, the so what? I'm listening to this, I'm not a king, I don't have a scientific kingdom. What is the takeaway for me today?
I think the most powerful and personal takeaway is the concept of safinat, the distraction.
That feeling of being zoned out.
You have to ask yourself, what are your safinat? What are the things in your life, even the good things, the things you're proud of, your career, your successes, your perfectly managed schedule, your jihad, that are causing you to stare blankly at the wall spiritually?
What's making you disconnect from your purpose? What's putting that body on the chair in your own life?
And the lesson from Solomon isn't that he was a perfect being who never got distracted. Of course he got distracted. The lesson is what he did when he realized it.
He acted.
He acted decisively. He purged the distraction. He recentered himself on his jihad, his core. He didn't let the zombie government keep running the show.
So it's a call to self-awareness and then to courageous action. Don't just accept the stories you've been told about history or about yourself. Dig down to the root.
And that really is the essence of the work Dr. Khaled Waleed is doing. He is challenging everyone to stop passively accepting heritage and to start actively investigating the source code of the text for themselves.
And if you want to see that investigation firsthand, to see the deep dive into the Arabic linguistics, we have to point you again to the source for today's entire discussion. The Almighty Covenant channel on YouTube.
It is dense, it is scholarly, and it will challenge you. But if you want to see the evidence behind these claims, that's where you'll find it.
I want to leave you all with that one image. The body on the chair. The idea that any system, our government, our job, our family, our own life, can become a hollow, soulless shell if we lose our connection, if we let ourselves drift into that state of safinat.
And the only thing that can fix it is to wake up, to see clearly, and to act.
Thanks for diving in with us. We'll see you next time.